How many remember Hood by Air? When people say something was ahead of its time, it's usually a cliche, but Hood by Air was truly ahead of their time. They helped create the luxury streetwear category that the game loves so much today. They changed the way brands design, the way retailers merchandise their stores, the way companies approach casting, and the entire view of streetwear by the fashion world itself. But over the years, Hood by Air is not nearly as visible as it used to be. Why is that? Let's find out. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the rise and fall of Hood by Air. But before we get started, let's hear it for our sponsor, us. Are you tired of the bland ambiance at home and want to add more personality? Well, at TakeFlight214.com, we offer custom canvas prints, aluminum artwork, posters, and much more. We've been in business for over 15 years offering high-quality wall art, apparel, and promotional materials. Any size, any design, we got you covered. Thousands of designs in stock, and we also offer printable files that you can download directly after ordering. So stop by today and check out our aluminum artwork. It's high gloss, high quality, and extremely durable. So if you want to add more life to your living space and have been looking for the perfect artwork to do so, then stop by TakeFlight214.com today, because blank walls are boring. Alright, you guys know the routine. Smash that like button as it helps us out in the YouTube search rank. But with that being said, now let's jump right in. Hood by Air was started by Shane Oliver and Raul Lopez in 2006. But the original name was not Hood by Air. It was actually Elite Urban Brigade. Which was a terrible name, by the way, and it's a great thing for them that they changed it. But Oliver had always had a penchant for the runway. So when he started the brand, they started doing fashion shows very early on. At one of their very first fashion shows, which took place at New York Fashion Week in 2007, the Fader's former style editor asked Oliver where he saw Hood by Air going. A young Shane Oliver, only 18 at the time, said he wanted to create a lifestyle brand for the new generation that appreciates what's going on in the streets, but understands urban culture influences the mainstream. This was in the middle of a streetwear boom, and all of the streetwear greats from the past were getting their start around this time. And when Hood by Air entered, they carved out a new lane of their own. Dominican tailors made Hood by Air's first t-shirt run, which retailed for around $200 each, which wasn't typical at the time because most streetwear brands t-shirts were going for what, $50 max? The first run of tees were sold at an NY Thing in Manhattan's Lower East Side and were meant to transition from day to night, which was another new concept. Although the brand was stocked in a couple of different stores, their main priority was selling the culture and getting it into the right places and with the right people and the right looks. Ghetto Gothic, a party series founded by Jasmine Soto, better known as Venus X, in 2009, embodied that very culture. Oliver DJ'd on some nights for a crowd of streetwear kids, punks, and the LGBT community. Many of them will form a core fan base for Hood by Air. In 2009, the brand would go on its first hiatus. During their absence, Shane would take gigs DJing for Ghetto Gothic, but all the while they were gone, demand continued to grow. It was sort of like this thing that everyone was still talking about, but no one knew how to get, stated Zachary Ching, Oliver's longtime friend. They didn't have a website. They didn't even have an Instagram. It was just like this mythical garments that you would see someone wearing once. Because the buzz surrounding the brand was so undeniable, Ching called Oliver as soon as he got hired to turn V-File's space on Mercer into a store. But Oliver, who was taking a break from the line to tour with Ghetto Gothic, didn't have any product on hand. V-Files wanted Hood by Air so bad that they agreed to produce the pieces for Oliver and just pay him out whatever he wanted for them. Ching remembers ordering about 500 t-shirts across 6 styles, and on June 12, 2012, V-Files held an opening party that also doubled as a Hood by Air relaunch event. Oliver and Venus DJ, A$AP Rocky performed, most of the A$AP mob came through, and on that night, both Hood by Air and V-Files were solidified as a relevant movement in fashion. At this release, Oliver would meet A$AP Rocky for the first time. Shane met Rocky through A$AP Bari, who would bring his friends from Harlem downtown. And members of the A$AP mob even appeared in Hood by Air's early lookbooks. A$AP Rocky was just beginning his ascent around this time, and he took a liking to Hood by Air, among other brands, such as Black Scale and Ben Trill, all brands that cater to the hood goth look. A$AP Rocky's affinity for Hood by Air would bring greater visibility and hype to the brand, and the two would wind up in a pretty interesting situation, but more on that later. Following the party, the Hood by Air pieces sold out within 2 days, and V-Files had to upgrade its payment system to accommodate demand. Hood by Air helped set the tone for V-Files assortment, which eventually included Pyrex, which as we know later transitioned into Off-White, Ben Trill, and Fear of God. Remember, this was before the days of high-end retailers breaking their backs to offer streetwear on their snooty shelves. Ben Trill and Hood by Air even released a collaborative t-shirt in early 2013, which Oliver had no idea of and really didn't want to release. Funny story, Shane and the guys at Ben Trill originally designed a tee with the intentions of it only being given away to friends and family. But little did he know, Matthew Williams of Ben Trill would allegedly run off with the design and have it mass printed and released in stores nationwide, according to a 2019 interview with Shane at least. Mind you, at the time, Ben Trill was still relevant, albeit a fading, hype-fueled brand that was being sold in places like PacSun in those days. But the designs would go on to be huge. And however upset Oliver might have been, this actually helped attract even more eyes to the brand as the shirt would pop up everywhere. Hood by Air would eventually lean into this a bit though, as Shane realized the public had a huge craving for their monochromatic goth-inspired tees and more IRL-ready apparel. He would release Hood by Air Classics, which was a diffusion line consisting of tees, hoodies, and sweats that were more toned down from his runway stuff so that people could wear it in real life and on a daily basis. Shane never really differentiated the two lines though on his site, and they would display Hood by Air Classics next to and often paired with the more out there stuff. This would be groundbreaking in the fact that stores like Barney's that wanted to carry Hood by Air will also begin carrying the Classics line as well, making this the first time streetwear had ever been carried in some of these stores. Because Hood by Air was doing so well, V-Files and Made helped Oliver secure an official spot on the New York Fashion Week calendar at Milk Studios in September of 2013. Hood by Air's runway shows were always an event. With Shane's penchant for pageantry, the HBA shows were very, shall we say, original. In 2013, the show would include A$AP Rocky, who walked in a neoprene Hood by Air jacket. The brand would also greatly include an LGBT vibe at their shows with appearances such as Boy Child, a trans performance artist. In 2013, style was moving beyond the heritage menswear look. The Watch the Throne tour with Jay-Z and Kanye West had just ended, ushering in a dark goth aesthetic in the streetwear. But Shane wasn't solely focused on streetwear though. Oliver was playing with gender-fluid clothing before it became a culture war talking point. Hood by Air was filling a void in the industry that wasn't being addressed. The brand came to embody the mid-2000s zeitgeist of hybrid oversized silhouettes, deconstructed streetwear, coutoured fabrics, immaculate tailoring, and big logos. Hood by Air's star was rising, as was A$AP Rocky's, and his influence on the fashion game started to take hold. In 2014, he would release a song titled Multiply, in where he would call Hood by Air weak and said Ben Trill was, quote, booty like tip drill. When asked why he would attack both brands in such a fashion, at first, Rocky told Complex in 2015 that he dissed both brands because he wasn't getting the acknowledgement from them that he felt he deserved. But he later revealed that he was upset because he had asked for ownership in Hood by Air and Oliver said no. Shane, who was appalled by this, didn't feel like just because Rocky had worn their stuff that it entitled him to a partnership. Which, on the one hand, I can agree with. Is A$AP Rocky entitled to partnership for his labors of simply wearing Hood by Air among other brands? No, not really. I mean, Rocky was wearing a few brands at that time, so what? Should he have been a partner in all of them? But on the other hand, Rocky did bring Hood by Air to the attention of tons of new people. I think it was even the first time I heard about the brand was through A$AP Rocky. So hey, you decide. Years later, Rocky would call up Oliver and apologize. But either way, the fashion industry was still intrigued. Oliver would go on to win the LVMH prize in 2014 and the Council of Fashion Designer of America's Swarovski Award for menswear in 2015. By this time, Hood by Era was showing about 4 times a year in New York and Paris. Shane Oliver may have been the front man, but Hood by Era was a team effort that was more of a collective if anything. And in 2014, Oliver would partner with the New Guards Group and moved Hood by Era's headquarters to Milan. The New Guards Group was the parent company for Off-White, Palm Angels, and Heron Preston before it was acquired by Farfetch, and they handled Hood by Era's production, distribution, and sales. Now, instead of working so hard and spending so much money to get 10 samples made in New York, they were making 100 samples in Italy. Sales were going well and distribution got wider. Once Hood by Era partnered with the New Guards Group, it had 250 stockists, up from 50 less than 3 years ago. And at the end of each season, they would assess which stores they would drop and how to edit down the different store orders. While at New Guards Group, Hood by Era was selling a lot of product, but not the type of product they thought best represented the brand. Oliver told Numero there was a miscommunication between the business side of things and the management, and a lot of the decisions were made in a, quote, very panicky way. New Guards Group wanted Hood by Era to focus more on hype stuff, but Shane wanted to do more high fashion. A clear business structure was never created for Hood by Era within the group, so after a few seasons, HBA got out of the deal, and in 2016, Oliver came back to New York, wanting to position Hood by Era as a conceptual fashion brand, not just one based off hype. But key employees began to leave, citing they didn't quite feel job security anymore. And in early 2017, Hood by Era canceled its Paris show, which led to rumors that there were problems in Paradise. Later on that year, Oliver signed on to design a Helmet Lane capsule collection, and in April of 2017, Hood by Era released a statement that the brand would go on another hiatus. During the break, Shane would freelance a bit as he collaborated with several brands, but all the while, HBA lay dormant. Hood by Era rose to prominence at an impressive pace. Not long after starting it, a young Shane was noticed for his talents. He had the ability to make things that the streets could wear, as well as more out there, avant-garde stuff that the high fashion suits like so much. The brand was before its time in that he was doing gender bending stuff and showcasing the LGBT community years before corporate America decided to leech off of the bandwagon. And as a result, the high fashion world loved him. They exalted him as if he were like the Basquiat of the clothing world, and the streets could still respect his work as viable pieces that we could wear at the same time. Naturally, you might think that a brand that was as flamboyant as Hood by Era could sometimes get wouldn't hit in the streets, but Shane was so talented that he could make pieces for both demographics. And although some of the stuff might not have been for you, you could always find pieces in the collection that were. Oliver and Hood by Era without a doubt paved the way for streetwear to be accepted as high fashion today. But in 2019, Shane announced the return of the brand. The relaunch was a bit complicated though. Shane announced that they would be re-releasing in 4 segments. Hood by Era, which would include a once-a-year event to showcase new product launches. HBA, which would be a direct-to-consumer platform. Museum was meant to be a program where designers could reimagine and recreate old Hood by Era pieces from the past. And Anonymous Club was to be a residency set to nurture talented young up-and-coming designers. When you take a look at Hood by Era now, you see the downfall, if you even really want to call it that, was not caused by the same thing that befalls many other streetwear brands. In fact, it was the complete opposite. Shane never wanted Hood by Era to be strictly based off hype, as much as about the artistic expression of the work. And he was so serious about this that he was willing to pull the brand all together just to avoid it. Hood by Era could be looked at as either a necessary piece to the ultimate evolution of streetwear, or a tool that helped drive the industry into the arms of the super corporate state that we find it in today. But either way, you can't deny the work that was accomplished by the team at HBA. But what do you think? Were you a fan of Hood by Air in the past? Are you wearing the relaunch stuff? Hit us up in the comment section and let us know. Also, if you made it this far, then please hit the like button. It helps us a lot in the YouTube search ranking so that we can continue to grow as a channel and spread our reach to more people. Also, if you want to be updated every time we drop a new episode, then hit the subscription button and the notification bell to be reminded every time we do a new release. But with that being said, I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com signing out. Until next time, peace.